It was a difficult shoot in terms of financial. It was really an independent film. We were really a nobody film, a nowhere film, and we made more money than any independent ever made.
The geography of making a film in the Philippines, in the jungle, was extremely hard.
Oliver wanted to have something like rough and crude, and I related to that idea immediately.
Oliver wanted stark reality in the movie. Everything about the movie had to be real.
We began shooting Platoon in April, I believe, of 1986. Salvador opened in New York in March, in LA in March. Salvador, terrible reviews mostly. It died right away. So the reviews were terrible. I was just about to start this movie, and I put my heart into Salvador with James Woods, and I was heartbroken. And to have to start another film right on the, which is a very grueling night shoot, on top of the failure of Salvador, I remember it was a dark moment for me. It was a dark moment.
It was such intensity, and he was under such grueling intensity because he had made films before, but never anything to distinguish himself. But he was very worried because of the very limited budget we had and how we had to get through these terrible conditions. We had no equipment. That's what we had going into this production. Difficulty in raising the money, difficulty in shooting halfway around the world, difficulty in knowing whether the money was going to be there.
When you're working very hard, and this is what most people don't understand how difficult the work is. It's like, even when you're day off, you're hooked. It's a continual plan. It's like a general moving troops. There's no day off. The most basic mistakes happen because people are tired. For example, you finished a very difficult day, you got what you wanted, but you're so tired you don't plan out the next day or the day after or next week, and things go wrong.
His strain was so great. I remember Oliver coming in to the office and accusing Claire Simpson, who was our editor, and our script supervisor, that they were hiding a scene from him that he knew he had shot. And they pleaded with him. They said, Oliver, you didn't shoot that. And he says, I know I shot it. You're keeping it from me. The two of you. The fatigue was getting to him.
Well, I don't think there are any sacred boundaries with Oliver. He's a complete iconoclast, and it makes him, both difficult to work with, but also interesting to work with.
He was very intense. He was very committed to his vision. He was not the easiest guy to work with at times. He didn't settle for what he felt was a half effort. He insisted on doing your best and then some. He's a bit of a button pusher, but he knows that, so he's the first to admit that.
It was a very difficult shoot, a lot of rain, a lot of hard nights, a lot of mosquitoes, bugs, working in the jungle.
One of the reasons that they decided to use the Philippines was that it's essentially on the same latitude as Vietnam. So much of the vegetation and much of the terrain and much of the climate is essentially the same as you would find in South Vietnam.
Some producers say a jungle is a jungle. What's the difference? But there is a difference. The difference is whether you want to make a difference, you want to make it accurate or not. We did. We wanted to make it look as much as Vietnam as possible. So Vietnam has red soil, Philippines doesn't have red soil. So we brought red soil in.
We built a road up into the jungle so we could get the real pristine jungle. I wanted to get into the real jungle.
It had 3 different tiers of overgrowth, which meant that it just kept in the heat and the humidity. And it got hotter and hotter. And we worked with snakes and cobras and vipers. And one man stepped on a viper and was bitten and would have died within 30 minutes had we not had the medic there.
When I stepped off the airplane for Platoon, there were certain overwhelming smell of burning rubber, for instance, cheap gasoline, diesel fuels. It took me back to a decade earlier when I was there watching my father go through what he went through on Apocalypse.
The village itself, together with the rice paddy, we built it right at the beginning because we wanted to have time for the things that we planted to grow and look real. In fact, we had vegetable gardens, the rice paddy. It was so real that local people moved into the village. No one told them not to do that. They moved in and occupied this village.
Burning of the village was a lot of gasoline, and what was amazing, it was all silent. The village was there 1 minute, and then we just hit one button and suddenly it just lit. That was more powerful to me.
These people that thought for a moment, oh, wow, you know, it's like we have a gift from heaven. Suddenly a village appeared out of nowhere and we burn everything.
There's a sequence in Platoon which very much resonates with me. It's a scene where Barnes shoots a woman in the head. The villagers were played by Vietnamese who were refugees in the Philippines. So many of them had gone through these kinds of experiences in Vietnam. And their cries were really difficult for me to cope with. And in order not to be upset by the material, I kept humming. And I finished the sequence, and then I realized what I was humming. It was Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings. I put the music to this sequence. And I remember I showed it to Oliver, and he said the hairs stood up on the back of his neck. He found that the music was just so evocative. It's like a scream from the soul, you know. It's a sort of incredible expression of pain and loss.
They're probing us. They're gonna be going up and down this line all night trying to get through.
Sometimes we had problems with lighting at night in the jungle. It was tough. One night, I remember the whole crew was sick by the 42nd day. I think me and a dozen people were out there going into a night shoot, and we put the lights on, and about 1 million bugs ran into the lights. It was like a horror movie. We couldn't shoot because the bugs were completely obliterating the light in the jungle. Those kind of problems go on.
If you notice, at night, the battles at night, we had these huge flares, and most of the film was lit with flares at night. So we had all these flares on bamboo sticks, and we would just move them, you know, move them like that, and it would move the shadows. And it was a great effect.
The last battle we lit by flares, by natural light, which was amazingly bold of Bob Richardson to do. And I'm glad he did, because I loved flare light in Vietnam was always the only thing we fought by.
Bob Richardson, the cinematographer, had come a long way from Salvador. It was a huge leap. His cinematography was quite extraordinary, the sort of burnt-out yellows, and then the dense greens of the jungle.
The biggest aesthetic for me was I wanted to make the film hard to see because it's not easy to find. I don't like films that give you everything. I don't like things to be too easily seen, so it was dark. We tried to make it difficult. The terrain was difficult, keeping the obstacles between the viewer and the actor. And then eventually, as it focused, as the drama focused, we let the people in.
I left the production in the Philippines, I think 10 days before it wrapped. I remember getting a telegram from Oliver. The rains are upon us. The men are dropping. I don't remember his exact words, but it was to express to me the despair that he was feeling in the last week of shooting.
As time wore on, I think the stress began to show on the actors. And I think for Oliver in particular,
I didn't enjoy it that much because it was painful. There was a lot of things that were painful, and I was trying to cut myself off, I think. Dale Dye was crying a few times, you know. I try not to get those emotions, you know, because they were chilling.
I think what was very interesting about Platoon was that, given Oliver's style of filmmaking, which is really to make a scene look as authentic as possible, you feel as an audience that you were there sort of witnessing these events. And even in Daly's form, there was a sense that you were actually looking at something that was happening, something that was real.
Hey, Francis.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Okay, how you doing?
Fine, man, just fine. Hey, dig it. We two-timers, man. We gonna get out of here, boy.
All the veterans afterwards, with tears, would thank us for showing what it was really like. And all these little things were so authentic because Oliver was always concerned about making it right, making it like it was.
I wanted it to have a little bit of something for everybody in it. Some little moment, some little image that you said, oh, there it is, I remember that. And so we tried very hard to get those moments in there.
The authenticity of what we tried to recreate was achieved. That's the satisfaction, the most satisfaction I've had.
Oliver is an incredibly demanding director, but he's sort of demanding in all the right ways. It's his way of getting the best out of people, in fact. And you can never fake anything with Oliver, because he knows.
It's truly a brilliant motion picture, and I appreciate it. And while I produced it, I cannot take credit for this. This is Oliver Stone's brilliance. It's his conception, it's his writing, his execution.
It was amazing for me as a young man, after years of defeats and things that hadn't happened, worked out, to have this kind of thing break out was exciting. You know, it's like a fire